with Altcoin Buzz. Hope you're having a good one. And today we're looking at this Forbes article that examines Deutsche Bank's massive, quote, multi-trillion-dollar by 2030 Bitcoin question. We'll let you know exactly what they're asking. Also on Forbes, which just can't get enough of Bitcoin and blockchain lately, this former Bitcoin skeptic thinks the price is about to explode. And here's why. We'll bring you then to the site altcoinbuzz.io to discuss ING Bank and how they will store crypto, article by Natalia. And finally, blockchain entices TikTok's parent company. So we're all about big business, big corporations, and banking today. Let's first, however, brace yourselves, take a look at the market. At the time of this recording, it is a bloody mess out there on coinmarketcap.com. $176 billion total market cap. We're down a couple of tens of billions over the last few days. Bitcoin right now just hovering above $6,600, $6,606 right now specifically. That's down 4.62% in the last 24 hours. Other projects are also down 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11% and more in some cases, but dominance rising ever so slightly. It now sits at 67.7%. So here on Forbes.com, what exactly is Deutsche Bank's multi-trillion-dollar Bitcoin question that they're asking in the 2030 context? You may have heard that Deutsche Bank has been in trouble. They've been in the news recently and they're not performing very well. Here's a quote. "The forces that have held the current fiat system together now look fragile and they could unravel in the 2020s. Deutsche Bank strategist Jim Reed wrote in a report looking at 24 alternative ideas for the next 10 years. Quote, "If so, that will start to lead to a backlash against fiat money and demand for alternative currencies such as gold or crypto could soar. The demand for alternative currencies will therefore likely be significantly higher by the time 2030 rolls around in just over 10 years. Don't forget, it's the global financial crises that birthed Bitcoin in the first place, and central banks are still struggling to offset the effects that we've seen as a result, with worries that another potential crisis could be looming on the horizon." Quote, "Will fiat currencies survive the policy dilemma that authorities will experience as they try to balance higher yields with record levels of debt?" Reed asked. That's the multi-trillion-dollar or Bitcoin question for the decade ahead. We've discussed this really for years now on this channel, the debt issue and the problem, if you will, on a larger scale. You know, whether you're talking about one country or really the global financial system, the so-called debt issues that can be seen as a result of every central bank policy aren't going anywhere, and the problems are only moving in one direction. They are only growing in one direction after all, and Bitcoin is often touted as an antidote to the central bank debt-based monetary system, picking up the moniker digital gold for its built-in scarcity. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, with the supply drying up in the distant year of 2140. Don't forget, next year in 2020, that's going to mark the next halvening, which will occur in about May of this upcoming year. We'll provide just a couple more quotes by Mr. Reed here before moving on. "Assuming governments back cryptocurrencies and consumers want them, adoption rates will drive the timeline for mainstream use. If current trends continue, there could be 200 million blockchain wallet users in 2030. I would expect personally that it could be more than that. We see 2020 as a year where at nearly every turn, disruption of the status quo is an overriding theme." That courtesy of Saxo Bank's chief economist, Steen Jacobson. Here's another quick article on Forbes. This former Bitcoin skeptic thinks the price is about to explode, and here's why. So will we recover from this dip in the near-term future? Perhaps. The Bitcoin price, which started the year at around $3,500 per Bitcoin, soared well above $10,000 this summer before crashing back down to about $7,000. Now, as we just saw, $6,600. Now, with Bitcoin traders and investors looking hopefully towards 2020, one former crypto skeptic turned Bitcoin believer has predicted the Bitcoin price could hit $100,000 per Bitcoin over the next 2 years before climbing as high as $500,000 by 2030. Mark Yusko is the chief executive and chief investment officer at Morgan Creek Capital Management, who told Business Insider that, quote, "Between now and 2021, we're likely to see $100,000 Bitcoin. Fast forwarding, by 2025, we'll likely see $250,000 per Bitcoin, and then sometime out, maybe 2030, we could see $400,000 or $500,000 per Bitcoin as it reaches gold equivalents." Again, equating the total market cap of Bitcoin with the current $8 market cap of gold. Tying back into the themes of the last article we just examined, the government and the elites want to have all the wealth, so they manufacture inflation and the wealth flows to the top. And that's why we have the greatest wealth inequality in the history of mankind. Bitcoin helps solve that because now we can opt out as an owner of assets from that fiat system. Continuing, quote, the forces that have held the current fiat system together now look fragile and they could unravel in the 2020s. This going back to Jim Reed's quotes. He is the chief strategist of Deutsche Bank. Again, he's predicting something along the unraveling that he's describing there to take place in the next 10 or so years. Speaking of banks, ING Bank will store crypto. Article here by Natalia. The Dutch bank is keen, purportedly, on the technology. So Dutch ING Bank is developing a custodial service for crypto holders. It is part of its blockchain-based initiatives. ING Bank from the Netherlands is working on a technology that will help its customers safely store their digital assets. Reuters shared this information, referring to people familiar with the situation. Quote, we see that tokenization of assets and the use of distributed ledger technology offer huge potential for our industry, says Annerie Vroidenhill, head of wholesale banking innovation at ING. So, my sense is that they're just putting out this press release. They're trying to get feelers. It would not surprise me in the least to learn that they have customers, many of whom are probably pestering about such custodial products, such custodial offerings, and they're likely responding to those customers by also getting a sense, dipping their toes in the waters here and seeing what the reaction is. You can read more about blockchain and banking in Natalia's article. You can also check out the original reporting here on Reuters, exclusive, ING working on digital assets custody technology, according to sources. And finally, for today, blockchain entices TikTok's parent company. Article also by Natalia. The parent company of the popular social media platform TikTok seems to have caught the blockchain bug, along with many others apparently. ByteDance is the owner of the popular video sharing service TikTok and is focusing on new business lines. And these lines apparently have to do with blockchain and AI. Thus, together with Shanghai Dongfang newspaper company, the owner of the digital news resource, thepaper.cn, it established a new company worth about $1.5 million. Here's what Bloomberg tweeted on the 14th of December. TikTok's owner ByteDance starts joint venture with state-owned Chinese media group to develop business lines including AI and blockchain. You can read about that on Bloomberg.com as well. And here commenting Aidan Grant. So the real headline and story is, quote, Chinese government merges two departments under its control to help spy better on the other departments in other governments. Hashtag fixed it. Perhaps a little bit more of a pessimistic outlook, but it's good to hear. Everybody seems to be catching the blockchain bug. Again, ladies and gentlemen of the Altcoin Buzz Army, I know we have a rather discouraging day when looking at the numbers here. The metrics aren't exactly inspiring or encouraging, but keeping that broad long-term perspective, looking to the horizon. And hey, you can be an optimist, you can be a pessimist. I kind of tend to see this